Does the Dark Knight have any friends? That's the question we'll look at this time on The Sci-Fi Show. Batman is a comic character that's been around since 1939. Bruce Wayne, the son of a wealthy industrialist who witnessed the murder of his parents as a child and who dedicated his life to fighting crime after the trauma of the event. Supported in his quest by the Wayne family butler Alfred, Batman uses his physical prowess and a collection of high-tech gadgets to battle the various criminal elements of the crime-ridden Gotham City. Batman has gone from the series of comic books to the small and large screen a number of times, from the amusingly campy 1960s television series to the darker, more recent series of films by Christopher Nolan. Through it all, the main character has remained the familiar crime-fighting orphan with a cast of associated enemies and colleagues. But does Batman have any friends? So how important are friends? The Israelite philosopher King Solomon had an interesting insight on the nature of friends that would seem particularly appropriate to Bruce Wayne's life. In his book of Ecclesiastes, he wrote, "There is a person without a companion, without even a son or brother, and though there is no end to all his struggles, his eyes are still not content with riches. So who am I struggling for, he asks, and depriving myself from good? This too is futile and a miserable task. Two are better than one because they have a good reward for their efforts. For if either falls, his companion can lift him up. But pity the one who falls without another to lift him up. Also, if two lie down together, they can keep warm. But how can one person alone keep warm? And if someone overpowers one person, two can resist him. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken." And the ancient Greek philosopher Aristole also observed in Book 8 of his Nicomachean Ethics that no one would choose to live without friends, but possessing all other good things. Friends are an aid to the young, to guard them from error, to the elderly, to tend them, and to supplement their failing powers of action. To those in the prime of life, to assist them in noble deeds. When twain together go, for two are better able both to plan and to execute. So where does this leave the Dark Knight? Aristotle had some interesting things to say about the concept of friendship that provides some useful insights. It's worth noting that the ancients had a slightly different conception of friendship than we do today. Aristotle divided friendships into 3 categories: friendships of utility, friendships of pleasure, and complete or perfect friendships. Aristotle regarded these as increasingly good types of friendship. The first type of friendship, the friendship of utility, is similar to the sort of relationship we would call colleagues or teammates. A friendship of utility is a friendship that exists because of some external activity or goal that brings the two people together, and it ends when the goal is satisfied or the activity is complete. The friendship ends as well as the relationship was based around the shared goal, and it provides utility to each of them. This is not quite as mercenary as it sounds. This sort of friendship exists because of some external goal or purpose, and it suits the two parties to work together towards this common goal or purpose. They can share their lives and be quite social, but the reason for the relationship is the external factor. When it disappears, the reason for the relationship does as well. In my experience, working relations are often like this. You get on with your colleagues and even interact outside of work, but after changing jobs, the relationship comes to a natural end and you lose touch. Next we come to the friendship of pleasure. A friendship of pleasure is one based in enjoying the company of the other person. You spend time with them because you like to, not for any utility they provide beyond enjoyment. Unlike the friendship of utility, the reason for the friendship is internal to the two parties. Aristotle regarded this as a higher level of friendship than the friendship of utility. The friendship of pleasure is not mutually exclusive with the friendship of utility, and a friendship of utility can grow into a friendship of pleasure if the two parties hit it off. A friendship of pleasure will naturally end when you cease to enjoy each other's company. Although a friendship of pleasure is regarded as a higher level of friendship than the friendship of utility, it shares a similarity with this friendship of utility in that it is essentially self-serving. In both cases, you get something out of the relationship. I hesitate to call these sort of relationships selfish because that's normally perceived in a negative sense, and I don't think the relationships are necessarily negative in nature. They could be, but the utility you derive from such a relationship where the other party simply takes and never gives is one that would quickly cease to be worth the trouble. The final classification, the perfect or complete friendship, is a special and rare thing. It's a friendship where each party in the relationship is aimed at the good of the other party principally. Whatever pleasure or utility they derive from the relationship, it is secondary. Aristotle described this sort of friendship as two souls in one body. One important requirement for this sort of friendship is that it's be a friendship of equals or near equals. Today we would probably regard this conception of friendship as the ideal for marriage, or at least a relationship between lovers. But the ancients seemed to regard marriage in a different light, seeing it in some ways as more of a friendship of utility or pleasure, if I'm not mistaken. A good one, but one aimed at raising a family and being more duty-oriented than a friendship typically is. Marriage relationships don't really fit on this scale. Aristotle did regard the complete friendship as a very rare thing, something many of us may never experience. A rare treasure. A complete friendship is unlikely to end unless one of the friends becomes irredeemably vicious and corrupt, or else they die. How does Bruce Wayne fare for friendships? He seems to have lots of relationships: Jim Gordon, Harvey Dent, the various Robins, Catwoman, and his ever-faithful butler Alfred. But are any of these perfect friends to Batman? Let's consider Jim Gordon, a member of the Gotham Police Department. Can a vigilante like Batman ever be friends with Jim Gordon? They do seem to have a working relationship of a sort. It seems that the relationship will only ever be a friendship of utility. The first problem is that Jim only ever has a relationship with Batman, and would seem for a perfect friendship, there would be a requirement for Batman to reveal his identity as Bruce Wayne. However, that would also likely destroy the relationship. After all, Jim Gordon is a police officer and does take seriously the idea of working within the law. He cooperates with Batman because it's sometimes necessary, but if the order came down to arrest Batman, it seems that Jim would follow the order. There's an inevitable tension in the relationship that makes it impossible for it ever to be more than a working relationship. Could Batman's sidekick Robin qualify as a perfect friend? He does know Batman's secret identity and even shares in it as his sidekick. At least while Robin acts as Batman's apprentice, the inequality inherent in a student-teacher relationship will make it impossible. But perhaps later, after the first Robin, Dick Grayson, establishes his own identity as Nightwing, independent of Batman, there is a potential for their relationship to change and grow. They certainly have a friendship of utility, and probably a friendship of pleasure, but while the relationship is asymmetrical, perfect friendship is probably beyond them. Perhaps there's potential in Catwoman Selina Kyle. Obviously, while she is a criminal, a perfect friendship is impossible, but Selina Kyle is an interesting character. She's not an irredeemable sociopath like the Joker or many other inmates of Arkham Asylum. She's largely decent. She's a thief, but that appears to be mostly a means of testing herself. Both Batman and Catwoman are attracted to each other and have had romantic relationships, a definite friendship of pleasure, but her criminality makes perfecting the friendship impossible. Could Bruce Wayne's longtime butler and longtime caretaker Alfred serve as a complete friend? Like Robin, he knows of Bruce's double life, and they do have a long association. I'm not sure how you would describe the nature of this relationship though. Alfred is an employee, but he also acts as a substitute father for Bruce after the loss of his parents. Alfred is certainly devoted to his role of caretaking of Master Wayne, but perhaps, in the honorific, he gives away the nature of the relationship. The honorific master is used to denote a child member of the family that a servant serves. Even when Bruce is fully grown, he still seems to be referred to as Master Wayne by Alfred. It seems that Alfred will always see his role as servant and mentor to Bruce, and that this will render a complete friendship impossible because they can never be equals. Finally, we have the fascinating character of Harvey Dent, the Gotham DA, who is horrifically disfigured and becomes the criminal Two-Face. Before his injury, Bruce has considered revealing his identity as Batman to Harvey, and perhaps they could have been complete friends. They certainly have plenty of things in common, including shared goals for opposing injustice, and Harvey was more tolerant of Batman's vigilante actions than Jim Gordon could ever be. They also were roughly equals, both powerful men, although in different ways. After Harvey became Two-Face, there's no chance of Bruce and Harvey remaining friends, because Two-Face was a criminal. Even then though, could Batman have sought to save and reform Two-Face? Was there perhaps any good left in him that Bruce was compelled to try and save? It seems Bruce Wayne is destined to go through life without a perfect friendship. His commitment to the pursuit of criminals will interfere with all of his relationships, and make the sort of lasting commitment a complete friendship requires impossible for him. Perhaps if he gave up being Batman, but this seems like it would be a betrayal of his life's mission he undertook after the death of his parents. It would leave him bereft of purpose. So Bruce Wayne is forced to choose between his life as Batman and the possibility of ever having the highest level of friendship. Perhaps Bruce Wayne's life as a crime fighter and wealthy head of Wayne Enterprises isn't as great as it first appears. Of course, Aristotle and Solomon warned us of that over 2,000 years ago. You can find more information on the different ideas contained in this episode in the show notes on sci-fi-show.com. I can be reached with comments via the sci-fi-show@gmail.com, and you can also leave a comment in the show notes on sci-fi-show.com, and you can also leave comments on our Facebook page, facebook.com/sci-fi-show. You can also follow the show via The Sci-Fi Show on Twitter. If there's a topic you'd like me to look into, please don't hesitate to ask. And don't forget, it's Phi with a PH. Let me know what you think. Sci-Fi Show is recorded under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 3.0 license, and the music is provided by Furious J and Maniacal M.